Okay, Olivia, we started and then I forgot to record. So we're doing equations of circles. This is the last section of the chapter. Tomorrow we'll start review. And we said the equation for a circle, boys, the equation for a circle is this: x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And from that, you get the center, which is at hk, and the radius, which is at r whatever. Sometimes y'all take the square root of this equation. Stop. Okay? So I said, like, if your center was at 2, 3, it would go x minus 2 and y minus 3 would go in there. And then if your radius, like, let's say it was 3, it would be 3 squared, so that became 9 there, right? So you would take the square root of that number to get the radius, okay? We did this one over here, and we said, for example 1, if AB is the diameter, so A is here, B is here, this is a diameter. The center, would it be 4, -1? I can just see that that's the center. The radius is 4 units, okay, from center out. So we said if the center is 4, -1, and the radius is 4, we went down to here, it'll be x minus 4 squared, y plus 1 squared equals 16. That's what we get for the equation of a circle, and that's all they want, is just that guy, okay? All right, we back on example 2? Okay, example 2. Write the equation of a circle that has a center at -3, -5, and passes through 0, 0. Okay, there are two things that we need for the equation of a circle. They are the center, which they give us, -3, -5, but then we need the radius, and they don't give me the radius. Not quite. You're on the right track. What this is saying right here, it says it passes through 0, 0. Here's what it means when it says passes through 0, 0. -3, -5 is my center. Right there, that's the center. And when it says it passes through 0, 0, that means it goes like this. Nope. That means it goes like this, right? So I need to find the distance to find the radius, yeah? Okay, do you guys remember distance formula? I'm finding the distance between -3, -5, and 0, 0. It is the square root of this stuff squared plus this stuff squared, right? Okay? So I'm looking at distance. I'm looking at how far apart is -3 and 0. Just 3. How far apart is -5 and 0? Is 5. You don't have to put the negatives because the square is going to make it go away. Do you remember doing this distance formula? Yeah. 3 squared is 9. 5 squared is 25. 25 and 9 is 34. And the square root of 34. Now, when you say the radius is the square root of 34, don't make it a decimal. I'm going to show you why here in just a second. Yeah. Don't find that as a decimal. So now we have these things going on. We know that the center is at -3, -5, and we did the distance between these two to find that the radius was the square root of 34. Good? Okay, I'm going to hop down here to writing the equation right here. We had center was at -3, -5. The radius is the square root of 34. I'm going to hop down to the very, very bottom step. All right. X, they say x plus something. Why do they say plus? Because it's -3, so it's going to turn to +3. So x plus 3 squared plus y plus 5, because it's -5, it's going to turn to +5. And then, if you look at this step right before, Brian and Matthew, are you paying attention? The step right before said the square root of 34 squared. What happens with a square root and a square? They go away. So this is just going to be 34. That's why I don't want you to make it into a decimal. Because you know what happens if you make it into a decimal? If you make it into a decimal, that would be like 5.8, let's say, squared. If you make it into a decimal and then square it again, it's not going to be 34. It's going to be like 33.9 or something like that. It won't be exactly right. Okay? So just leave it as the square root of whatever, and then that's just going to cancel out. Good? Happy with that? Skip example 3. Go to example 4. Top of the next page, using a diameter to write an equation. All right, the school board has determined the new boundary for Riverdale High School's bus transportation. The high school is at point H and is the center of the circle that represents the new boundary. The students that live on or within the circle will have to walk to school. Students that live at points J, K, and L lie on the boundary. All right. I'm going to graph this thing. I can't math this. J is -5. 1, 2, ooh. -1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boys. -5, 2. That's J. -5, comma 2. K, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, comma 6. that is K. And H, oh, they don't say. L is at 5, 2. Okay, this is L. This is very confusing. How the heck is this thing graphed? How the heck do I draw a circle?
What's the center again? L?
H, which we don't have. We don't have a point for H.
J to L would be the diameter.
J to L is the diameter?
J to K.
Right?
They say J to K is the diameter.
Oh, I guess I was reading that.
So this is the diameter right here. And then my circle is going like this. Something like that. You see that? That's not a very good circle.
Find the distance of that.
And then we want to know H, and H is the center. I'm guessing H is like on the y-axis, but we're going to find out here in a second, okay? The two things that we need to write an equation of a circle is we need to know the center and we need to know the radius, and we don't know either one of them here, right? H we know is the center. That's what they called it, right? But H is exactly in between J and K, right? JK. What's that called? H is the something. He is the midpoint.
Oh, this might be the
Midpoint. Do you know how to find midpoint?
No, you haven't seen mine.
Average.
Finding the midpoint is like finding the average. If I'm trying to find the average, what I'm going to do is averaging. I'm going to add the x coordinates together. So -5 plus 5, that's the average, divided by 2. I'm going to do the same thing with the y coordinates. I'm finding the average. 2 plus 6 divided by 2. Okay? -5 plus 5 divided by 2. This is 0 over 2, which is 0. 2 plus 6 is 8, divided by 2 is 4. Does that point look like it's at 0, 4?
Yes.
I think so. Center is at 0, 4. We're trying to write the equation. Write the equation of the circle. So we have the center. Now how do I find the radius?
Distance.
0, 4. Now what I could do, okay, so Brian said something about divided by 2. I could, here are my 3 options actually. I could find the distance from J to K and divide it by 2. Or I could find the distance from here to here and not divide by 2. Or I could find the distance from here to here and not divide by 2. We just get to decide. I like the third option just because we're not having to deal with negatives. True? Okay, so either way would work though. And all of them are going to get you the right answer. Let's go from there to there. So let's do the distance formula here. Square root of this guy squared plus this guy squared. All right, going from 0 to 5. 5 going from 4 to 6. 2. 5 squared is 25. 4 squared is not, or 2 squared is 4. 25 plus 4 is the square root of 29 is my radius. The square root of 29. Okay, good. Then all we have to do is write out our equation. So I'm going to write it right below. Okay, do you see how we got the midpoint? We had to find the center and the radius. Okay, now, the only problem is, if your midpoint and your center is wrong, your radius is going to be wrong also. True? If your center's on your wrong spot. Okay. All right, so let's do this. We've got x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals the radius squared. All right. X minus 0. Y minus, we'll fix it here in a second. The radius squared will be the square root of 29 squared, so just 29. Do you see how that works?
Yep.
They might write it like this. X squared plus y minus 4 squared equals 29. That's totally fine too. Yeah? Sometimes they won't put that 0 back in there. If you do, if you leave it like this, it's not wrong. But it just seems weird to like subtract 0 on the end of something, right? Happy with that? Not too bad? Okay, we got one more problem, and it is example 5, which is at the top of the next page. This is a doozy. Are you ready? Here we go. They have, do you guys remember in algebra when we would do like, this equation is y equals -1/2 x plus 4, and this equation is y equals 2x minus, or 2x plus 3. Find where those 2 points intersect. Do you remember how to do that? Like if I have those 2 linear functions, right? One is negative, one's positive. How do I find where they touch each other? What's that process called? I have 2 equations, and I want to know where they intersect. How do I find where they intersect? Do you remember what that's called? You had 2 options. You could do, that's the intersection point, right? You could do the substitution or elimination. Elimination is the best. Substitution or elimination, right? Okay, it's the same thing here, except we're doing a circle intersecting a linear function, right? Okay, so they give me x squared plus y squared equals 9. That center, what's the center of x squared plus y squared equals 9? Center is at 0, 0. The radius is 3. So this is a circle with a radius of 3. They've drawn a circle centered at 0, 0 with a radius of 3. They've drawn that circle. And then they've also drawn this linear function, which is x minus 2. How do you graph x minus 2, by the way?
Down 2 from the origin.
You start at
Up
negative 2
1
from the
over.
origin, and then you go up 1 over 1, because this slope is 1. So up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. So I have this line intersecting that circle, and I want to know where it's going to touch, right? Maximum, it's going to touch 2 places. Is there a way that it could only touch 1 place?
If it was a tangent line.
If it was a tangent line, that's a very good answer. If it was only touching at that one spot, it totally could, right? Okay? Is there a way that it's going to touch at no places?
If it wasn't me.
If it was like over here, not even close to the circle. Is there a way it could touch at 3 places? Not if it's a linear function. If it's a parabola, it could. It could touch at 4 places if it was a parabola, right? A parabola intersecting a circle, right? Okay. Sometimes you'll see questions like that on the ACT, but they won't ask you to actually do it. They'll just say like a shaded region, and then they'll have a parabola and a circle. Anyway, whatever. Okay, so we're looking at where this line is touching the circle. Okay, so we've got these two functions, x squared plus y squared equals 9, and then y equals x minus 2. Okay, I'm gonna write them over here. X squared plus y squared equals 9, and y equals x minus 2. Okay, we cannot eliminate. Do you know why we cannot eliminate?
Because it's y.
One of them's
equals-
squared, and like the y and the x are squared, and here the y and the x are not squared. So that's not gonna work. Unless we square
Square
both
root.
sides, which we totally could.
But you could find the square root of the left one. No. X plus y equals 3. Or is that the same thing?
No, not quite. No. Like if you take the square root of this, the square root of this, because it's trapped with a plus sign, that's not necessarily x plus y. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. All right. But what we can do is we can substitute. So I'm going to take x minus 2 and I'm going to plug it in for y. Yeah? This is going to be kind of gross. Are you with me? All right, we've got x squared here, plus, if I plug x minus 2 in for y, it'll be x minus 2, that junk squared equals 9. I just took that and I plugged it in there. So I made it uglier, but I only have one variable now. I'm only dealing with x's now. Okay. This guy, we've talked about how to FOIL him before, like x minus 2 squared means x minus 2 times x minus 2. Yeah, did we talk about that before? So if I FOIL this, you'll get x squared minus 2x minus another 2x plus 4, yeah? Or x squared minus 4x plus 4. And some of you guys can go straight to that, and I encourage you to do that, okay? So I'm going to go x squared. He's just going to come down. This guy is going to be x squared minus 4x plus 4 equals 9. Okay, now what?
Combine
2x
the x squared.
Okay, I've got x squared and x squared. That's 2x squared.
Subtract the 4 over. Oh.
You could subtract the 4 over, but I've got a trinomial I'm going to have happen. So I'm going to minus the 9 over and get it all onto one side. So I've got 2x squared minus 4x, and then 4 and negative 9 is minus 5 equals 0. Okay, now I have a trinomial. Is it a simple
Complex.
trinomial? No, it's a complex trinomial, but if you try to do a complex trinomial and break it down, it doesn't work either. So what do we do if nothing else works? Look at what they did.
GCF.
No.
No, actually, no.
What did they do?
I don't remember this.
Subtract 9 from each side.
What's this?
We already did that, Brian.
Find.
Use
Quadratic formula.
You.
Quadratic formula. If everything else fails and you can't do a simple trinomial and you can't do anything else, you just do the quadratic formula. Okay. All right. What is B?
2, 4, minus
Negative 4. So negative B would be negative negative 4, yeah? Plus and minus the square root of, what's B squared going to be?
16.
Positive 16. Minus 4 times A is 2 and C is negative 5. Okay? All over 2 times A, which is 2. All right, we're going to simplify some stuff here. All right, negative 4 just becomes positive 4, plus minus. All right, I'm going to do the stuff that's up here in this top part. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8, and negative 8 times negative 5 is 40. What do I do with 40 and 16?
minus.
Subtract.
So
Add them. You add them.
Oh,
yeah.
16 plus 40, because now it's a positive 40, right? Is the square root of 56, all over 4. Okay, so we're going to get two answers. We're going to get 4 plus the square root of 56 over 4, and we're going to get 4 minus the square root of 56 over 4. Okay? If you type the top one in, 4 plus the square root of 56 over 4, you get 2.87. If you subtract it, you get negative 0.87. Okay?
Crazy.
That gave you x. There are two answers for x. Look at the picture. Look at the picture. Can I go over? Look at the picture. Two answers for x. 2.9, we said 2.87, right? 2.87 and negative 0.87. That is these two answers right here. Negative 0.9 and 2.9, yeah? How did they find the other coordinate? Like this was 2.9, right?
Oh, you
Comma.
just
How did they find that?
Flip them around.
No.
Remove-
No.
No.
2.9,
X.
plug it into here. 2.9 minus 2 is 0.9. If I plug in negative 0.9, what's negative 0.9 minus 2?
Minus
Negative 2.9. So those are the two coordinates where they are going to intersect, yeah? Right? When we did substitution and elimination, we would usually get one answer, right? Or we would always get one answer. But as soon as you found x equals something, you'd have to plug it back in and solve for y. You just have to plug both of them back in to solve for y, right? Two different coordinates. Yuck. Crazy. But it's just following along with substitution, normal substitution. Okay? Good? Messy? A little bit. How about that? All right. Here you go. Here's homework. 1 through 10 and 14 and 18. You, I think, need some graph paper. You guys want me to just, I think you have to graph like number, I don't know, 9 and 10.
you.
I think you have to graph number 9 and 10. You can graph some of the other ones if it helps you, but you don't have to. But 9 and 10 at least, you have to graph. I will give you some graph paper. Anything else before I stop? Okay.